Hi, I'm Tom Collins. I'm the Executive Director of the Arizona Citizens Clean Elections Commission. We're the state's voter education agency. As you may know, the legislature recently wrapped up its 130-odd day session with the coup de grace being the passage of a budget on the election front that included $4.4 million for the presidential preference election that will be coming up next year. But it also, the legislature included a number of changes that will affect voters and how they experience voting. And here today with me is Tonia Tunnell, the Government Relations Director for the Maricopa County Recorder's Office, who's been tracking the ins and outs of these bills throughout the session. And she's here to talk to us about what voters can expect. So Tonia, thanks for being here.
Very happy to be here.
One of the big bills that was passed, which legislators had pushed in years past but not successfully, was to move up Arizona's state primary election. Tell us a little bit about what that move does and what some of the benefits of that move may be for voters.
Sure. Senate Bill 1154 moved the primary election date, that's different than the presidential preference election date, the primary election date from the last Tuesday in August to the first Tuesday in August. It's giving us 2 extra weeks. So this will give us more time to do all of the things that we need to do in the elections office to get those ballots out to those voters in a timely manner.
And always a quick note, if you're an independent voter and you want to vote early, you need to talk to your county recorder about ensuring that you select the ballot for the party that you want. Just a little PSA there.
Absolutely.
We're going to talk about 2 bills that are kind of related right now that have to do with identification in a couple of different ways. The first is a bill called Senate Bill 1072, and as I understand this bill, if you are voting on site for early voting, so if you're going to a local library station or down to the county recorder, in addition to voting your early ballot or having it issued to you and signing the affidavit with it, you also have to show the person manning the poll there your photo ID.
Not photo ID, but your ID that normally you would show at the polls.
Okay.
So Arizona allows you to have 1 item of picture identification or 2 items of non-photo ID. So if you go to your county recorder's website, they'll tell you specifically what ID you need. But indeed, if you are going to go into a location and vote early, those 27 days before the election, you need to bring your ID now, as well as be prepared to sign that early ballot envelope.
And the other bill which is related is Senate Bill 1090. Senate Bill 1090 has to do with what are called emergency voting stations, which are yet a different kind of voting, early voting place. Back in 2018, there was some question about how those should be placed and what the rules are. This bill, as I understand it, puts the county boards of supervisors in charge of selecting the sites for early voting. Is there anything else that voters need to know about that bill?
Yeah, and Senate Bill 1090, recorders and elections directors are partners with the Board of Supervisors, so largely none of that process is going to change. Yeah. Certainly for voters, if you have an emergency where you did not know that you were not going to be able to vote at the polls that Tuesday election day, you'll come into an emergency voting location, or in some cases, say for example, you get in a car accident and you're at the hospital, you could call your county recorder's office and we'll be able to come out and bring a ballot to you. When those things happen, a couple of things. One is, again, you need to be prepared with your identification, and then you'll also be signing an affidavit that says indeed that you had an emergency that was unforeseen that will prevent you from voting at the polls on that Tuesday.
We have on our website on azcleanelections.gov, we also have a tool that will help you identify what are the IDs that you may or may not bring to the polls on a statewide level. Finally, I think the other big thing is Senate Bill 1054. This is really all about helping recorders, election directors get ahead of the game, if you will, for all of the crush of mail ballots that you receive. So talk a little bit about that crush and what this does to help it.
As an election official, this is one of the bills that is going to help us significantly in the timely reporting. Right now, because the bills have not gone into the general effective dates, current state law says that even though we start getting those ballots back very shortly after the 27 days before the election, we were not allowed to process or start tabulating those ballots until 7 days before. This new law will allow us to start tabulating 14 days before, giving us 7 extra days, which will help, especially in Maricopa County, where we have thousands upon thousands of ballots, help us with that backlog so that we can hopefully report a lot more numbers out on election night, for example. Rest assured that still the law is very clear that we do not announce any results. In fact, no one in the elections department knows a single result until 1 hour after all of the polls close. So there's still security mechanisms in place to ensure that nobody gets to know the results early, but it does help us start with that tabulating process so that we can report those answers out to you as everybody is waiting with bated breath at 8 o'clock on election night.
Right, and that's one of those things that's sort of been since early voting a perennial issue, is how can we cut down that time. So this looks like a step in the right direction in that way.
We're hopeful it will be.
Well, this has been Tonia Tunnell from the Maricopa County Recorder's Office, the Director of Government Relations there. I'm Tom Collins, the Executive Director of the Clean Elections Commission, and thank you for joining us. We hope you've learned a little bit about some of the election changes coming your way over the next year.